Friends, if you're not aware, Orange County, California has become something of a mecca for retro game hunting and shopping. It seems these days you can't throw a copy of E.T. and Atari without hitting a game collector who will pick it up and lead you to the nearest retro gaming store. I recently decided to make my way back to Earth for a brief time to see the greatest band on the planet, the champagne of bands really, the motherfucking Hives. But after that, I had a long weekend to myself, and what came of it was an odyssey of excellent craft beer and retro gaming, hunting, and adventures. Welcome back to Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy in the universe. I'm your Captain DT, and exploring the universe for all things nerdy is what I just got back from doing. After experiencing one of the best concerts I've ever been to,
shut the f*** up while I'm talking.
I set forth with one goal in mind: to drink a lot of beers and to check out the best in retro gaming that Orange County, California has to offer.
That's 2 goals. Numbnuts.
Is it, Goldblum? Is it?
Did you get concussed at that concert?
Anyway, my first day exploring the nostalgic wonders of California led me straight to Huntington Beach, where, nestled in a wonderful, sleepy little shopping plaza called Old World Village, is Kelly's Toy Stop. Now, Old World Village in and of itself is super cool. It's got the look and feel of a quaint, rural Bavarian village, complete with a German dining hall and all kinds of small mom-and-pop businesses, the coolest of which, by far, is Kelly's. And you may have seen Kelly's on YouTube, but videos just don't do it justice, including this one. You walk in, and after being greeted by a lovely shopkeep by the front door, you are overwhelmed in the best way by every single bit of 70s, 80s, and 90s nostalgia you can imagine. Floor-to-ceiling display cases of Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, Thundercats, Masters of the Universe, and 1,000,001 little surprises all in between. The shop must be like 500 square feet or less, but you can spend an hour or more, and I did, just staring at everything they've managed to jam-pack into this great little shop. Honestly, if you could physically manifest my brain into a space you could walk into, it would probably look exactly like Kelly's Toy Stop. The place was just magical, and the nostalgia wonder of the place was matched by the warmth and kindness of the person working the store that day, a rad dude named Serge. He and I were both wearing Ninja Turtle shirts when I walked in, so we hit it off immediately. He was totally cool with me taking photos and pictures and asking questions about the shop, and I could tell that he had the same love for all the stuff in Kelly's Toy Stop that I do. A copy of Castlevania on NES and a semi-vintage Mega Man vinyl figure in a nearby case both caught my eye, and I asked about them. Serge was kind enough to pull both out for me to examine, and I decided I wanted them both. Not only because I love Mega Man and Castlevania, but because I just wanted to patronize this lovely establishment. Both pieces were priced at $35, and Serge said, "I'll do $40 for both." And I was like, wait, that's like getting one of them basically for free. And Serge was like, "Yeah, dude, it's cool." I was floored. He and I chatted for a while longer about games and collectibles and the shop's history and how they've amassed this amazing collection, which, believe it or not, is actually largely owned by the shop's owner themselves. I assumed it was some sort of a consignment situation, but no, this legendary collection of things belongs to one person who wants to redistribute it to the rest of the world at incredibly generous prices. It was the perfect place to start my journey, and Serge was the perfect shaman to send me on my way. If you're ever in the Huntington Beach area, Kelly's is a must visit. Next up was a quick ride up the road to another location that's quietly becoming something of legend, and for good reason. Retro Games Plus has been featured on quite a few retro gaming channels on YouTube at this point, and now they can add Space Castle to that list. When I walked in, I was immediately warmly greeted by the kid behind the counter who asked me what brought me in that day, and I told him that I knew the shop from YouTube, that I was in from out of town on vacation and I had to come and see the place for myself. He was psyched to hear that, and he told me to feel free to look around and take photos if I wanted to, and to grab him if I needed help with anything. And this place was badass. Stocked with tons of vintage t-shirts, VHS tapes, retro games, memorabilia, and more, I was practically giddy within 5 minutes of walking around. The first thing I did was check out the vintage t-shirt section at the front. The first thing that shook me was a John Carter cruise shirt from the film's production. Now, if you're not familiar with John Carter, well, you're not alone. The 2009 film, based on a novel, A Princess of Mars by Edgar Rice Burroughs, part of his Barsoom series of classic sci-fi fantasy books, was a huge misstep by Disney, who had no idea how to market the film upon its release. It was a box office flop to the tune of about $200 million, and I actually f***ing love it. It's a good movie. It deserved better. It deserves better, and Disney let something really special sink away, abused and neglected because they were already in the midst of buying the Star Wars franchise and didn't see a reason to promote the film or build it up as a sustainable franchise to compete with Star Wars. Also, Taylor Kitsch deserves better. That dude is actually a good actor, and it's absolute crap that he ended up in the worst X-Men movie ever made, and then crap like the Call of Duty commercials. Disney really screwed over a lot of people with John Carter, but the film itself remains near and dear to my heart. Getting back to Retro Games Plus, their collection of stuff was something special. I have never actually seen a Vectrex in person before, and lo and behold, there was one staring me right in the face, not 10 feet from the front door. The first and only ever vector display home console. It's something of an anomaly and an important, if niche and obscure, piece of gaming history. And that's what Retro Games Plus is in a nutshell. It's a celebration of the history of multiple forms of pop culture. Not just video games, but the entire experience of growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s. Wandering further into the store, I landed at their collection of NES and SNES games and was greeted by friends new and old. Games that I played and loved as a kid, and some that I never got to play and always wanted to. And thusly, the first thing I did was ask my new friend at the counter if he could grab me a copy of the Guardian Legend on NES from behind the glass, and the adjacent copy of the Clash at Demon Head, which came with the manual, which is badass. And upon inspecting the manual for Clash at Demon Head, I was delighted to see that there were notes and codes written throughout the pages. Some people might think this lowers the value of the copy of the game, and they're probably right, but I don't f***ing care. I love this stuff. This copy of the game was loved and played passionately by some kid in the late 80s, and that's beautiful to me. See, I once had a college professor who told his students never to buy brand new copies of books, textbooks or otherwise. Buy a used copy with notes in the margins and dedications in the flyleaf, books that tell as much of a story by itself as the text inside. Doing so will oftentimes provide you with invaluable insights from people who read it before you. And in the case of textbooks, someone actually did a lot of the work for you, highlighting and notating all the important stuff ahead of time. It's actually kind of insane that a brand new copy of a book costs more than a used one when you really kind of sit down and think about it. And this used, beloved copy of Clash at Demon Head is more beautiful to me than a complete in-box sealed copy. On our way back to the front, I also snagged one of the cleanest used copies of Mega Man 2 I've ever seen. And I thought I was done. I was chatting away with the dude at the counter as he was ringing stuff up, and I, glanced over a couple times and I finally bit the bullet and I asked him about the TurboGrafx 16 Mini up on the shelf behind him with the very reasonable price tag. He said it was actually a new arrival and he was surprised it was still on that shelf, and I was too, given that price. But after spending hours watching retro game collectors on YouTube, I had to see if I learned anything, and I asked if there was a little bit of wiggle room on the price. I was gonna try and haggle my way into something lower. And I'm not gonna say what I ended up paying for the TurboGrafx 16 Mini because I don't want to send a mob of people to Retro Games Plus looking for crazy deals, but I did okay. And I think the fact that I already had a short stack of games rung up helped sweeten the deal, but I walked away with something I didn't think I would ever find for less than $300. And at that point, I was beaming from the nostalgia overload, from the warm reception I received from the people working there, and from the awesome new purchases I had just made. Also, I bought that fucking John Carter cruise shirt because that movie kicks ass and Disney can go f themselves. And so I finished off that day with some craft beer and pizza, and I slept well hugging my new TurboGrafx 16 Mini tightly with all my new NES games nestled alongside us, and my new vinyl Mega Man figure keeping watch over us. See, I was staying in kind of a shady area of Santa Ana, so he insisted. The next day I kicked things off slightly hungover, but still not regretting my purchases, and after scarfing down a wonderful chicken and waffles Benedict for breakfast and probably about 2.5 cups of coffee, I was powered up for another full day of drinking and retro games hunting in Santa Ana, all the way up to Los Angeles International Airport, where I was slated to fly home. The one place I absolutely had to check out before leaving California that second day was Hidden Gems Video Games in Fountain Valley, California. Now this place boasts an incredibly rare 4.9 rating on Google, which is insane for any sort of retail establishment, and once you set foot inside, you will understand why. The nostalgia and coolness of this shop licks the entire breadth of your face like a cuddly St. Bernard the second you walk in. You got pinball machines to the left, you've got a rad neon sign with gaming memorabilia and a case of GameCube games to the right, and the stretch of gaming treasures in front of you as you walk through the store. Once again, I was warmly greeted by the person behind the counter, and as soon as I was able to work my jaw again, I said hello back and I started gazing hungrily at all the displays like a kid loose in Willy Wonka's factory. Like the good Willy Wonka, not whatever this shit was.
Good morning, Starshine. The Earth says hello.
The clerk asked me what brought me in today, and before I could answer, I was suddenly caught off guard by what caught my eye next. Utterly stunned, I was barely able to eke out, "You have a copy of f***ing Left Bros." And he was like, yeah, it's not in that great a shape, but still, it's pretty awesome, huh? And I sheepishly asked, "Can I take a picture of it?" And he was like, "Dude, of course." Now, if you're not familiar, Left Bros is a nickname given to a rare misprinted copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. The word Bros in the logo is placed on the left-hand side of the title, where it's weirdly out of place against Mario's hand. It should be on the right-hand side of the title in the empty space near Mario's head. A complete, pristine, factory-sealed copy of Left Bros can go as high as $15,000 at auction. This particular copy was on sale for $200 and I should have f***ing bought it. It wasn't in great condition and I would probably never be able to resell it for more than the $200 I would have paid for it, but what a neat and rare and weird thing to have had in my collection. It's haunted me ever since, and it will probably continue to haunt me. And that was by far the most mystifying thing I saw at Hidden Gem Video Games, but that is in no way selling this place short. It was chock full of awesome memorabilia, great games at excellent prices, and some neat stuff that I actually haven't seen in person for years. Like the Virtual Boy. Does anybody remember the Virtual Boy? I ended up grabbing copies of The Goonies 2 and Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest for the NES. And holy crap, you guys, I don't know what they're doing over there, but these were two of the absolutely cleanest used copies of NES games I've ever seen. If not for looking closely at them and seeing the faintest of scratches from wear and tear, you could swear these games are right out of the box. Whatever they're doing to clean these games up for resale, and the fact that they seal each game in a plastic pouch to keep them that clean, just speaks volumes to the level of reverence and passion this shop has for games. I was actually sad to leave, and I spent the car ride to the next brewery on my list, coming to the realization that I should have bought that goddamn copy of Left Bros. But it was a happy visit, and I cannot recommend enough Hidden Gems Video Games if you ever find yourself in Orange County. I arrived back on a Space Castle happy and confident, having seen my favorite band in concert, snagging some awesome video games from my modest collection, and having laid eyes on multiple pieces of true video game history. Seeing my favorite band play live, brewery hopping, and retro games hunting and shopping is just about a perfect weekend as I can imagine, and it was made all the more perfect thanks to the excellent people I met at Kelly's Toy Stop, Retro Games Plus, and Hidden Gems Video Games. It's a trip I will never forget and video games that I promise I will never resell. Unless Goldblum decides to re-up his subscription for Netflix again without telling me. Holy hell, you guys! 3 price increases in a single year? Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Space Castle, where it's our mission to explore all things nerdy. Are you a retro games collector? What are your favorite places to shop in your area? Hit me up in the comments below and let's talk about our coolest finds. And if you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to check out more nerdy videos similar to this one, please check out the rest of the series and consider subscribing. It costs nothing, which is very, very far removed from the amount of money I spent on this trip. I'm your Captain DT, and I
You should have bought that copy of Left Bros.
should have bought that copy of Left Bros.